Welcome to the Pampered Thoughts podcast, where we are inspiring and encouraging women to love themselves as they are without shame or guilt, focusing on topics such as self-love, marriage and family, balance in life and business, and all things woman. Every week, we'll share inspirational topics that focus on helping you to overcome your struggles and limitations with lack of identity, low self-esteem, self-love, confidence, and so much more. I'm your host, Veronica Scurry, a wife, mom, speaker, entrepreneur, and more importantly, a daughter of the King. Hey, y'all. Welcome to today's episode. I hope you had a grand and pampered week. If you're new to the Pampered Thoughts podcast, welcome. If you've been rocking with me every Thursday for a happy half hour, if that, then y'all already know I truly adore each and every one of you. Even if this is your first time listening in, I thank all of you because you didn't have to listen to us, but you did. And so I truly appreciate you. If you haven't done so already, please take time to subscribe, rate, and review the show. Also, follow on Instagram and Facebook at Pampered Thoughts and Twitter at I Am Pampered. Show us the love, and I'll love you back. So, this week, y'all, I titled the episode A Whole Business with a 9 to 5 on the Side because I pretty much like many of you am working what's considered to be the traditional 9 to 5 job. But I also have multiple businesses that I'm working simultaneously as I work my 9 to 5. You may have one business or multiple businesses, and regardless of really how many businesses you have, if you're working a 9 to 5 and a business together, is pretty much because eventually you plan for your business to one day take the place of your job, right? With the exception of those of you who may actually love your job and you want to continue working even after you've built your business up. You may just want to work your business not necessarily out of necessity, but because you want to have options, because you like what you do and you just want to stay there. And there's nothing wrong with that. Some people may say you have a side gig or a side hustle or a side business as if it's really not a complete business. But if you sign all your paperwork and you're signed up for all of your bank accounts, you got all your official paperwork that you need to be a business, you are officially a legitimate business. You're the CEO and the owner of your own company. You are your employee in every aspect of your business until you decide that you want to hire employees or until you're able to. There's a lot that comes with running a business and working full time. Your time is very limited, and you have to be mindful and intentional with what you do with your time. Don't forget, if you have family, your husband and your children, if you have them, still need your time as well. And so I wanted to share some tips with you all today because this week for me was a lot. I had a lot going on mentally. It wasn't necessarily anything bad, but it was more so just thinking about all the things that I have to get done. Working a 9 to 5 and running the businesses that I have, it's just, I had so much going on. My mind was just cluttered with so much stuff, and I was becoming anxious. I was becoming stressed that I wouldn't really get everything done. And I know that anytime I get like that, it's because I've been trying to do too much and I start worrying. And so some of you may be going through some of the same things. I wanted to share with you some of the tips that helped me. Actually, literally just this week. For those of you that have been listening to the show and those of you who know me, you know that I'm a believer in the Bible. I believe in the Most High. Many of you call him God. I do sometimes too, but for the most part, I've started to call him by his Hebrew name, his original name, which is Yahweh or Yah. So when you're listening to the Pamper Thoughts podcast, just know that when you hear me say Yah or Yahweh or the Most High, I'm talking about the God of the Bible. And you may hear me say God at times too. You probably already have. So you'll hear me use the name interchangeably. I also believe in Yeshua, who most of us or most of you call him Jesus, which is his son. So when you hear me talk about prayer and talk about meditation, it's coming from the biblical understanding of what prayer and meditation is. There's a lot of other meanings for other people, but for me, we use the Bible for our growth and for our understanding. And so I say all of that to say that I want to share some pampered thoughts with you, which are basically, as I've explained in some of my other episodes, my previous ones, is that there are tips to help you with managing life. This podcast is about all things woman. So you're going to hear about how to manage, which what we're talking about today, stress, balancing life, work, business, taking care of the family, building your self-esteem, building lack of identity. All of these things you'll hear about on this podcast. Like what you've heard so far? Great. Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you so much for your support. Now back to the show. So you're going to hear about managing your stress and anxiety while working full time for someone else and full time for yourself. And so these are tips that have helped me. And so I wanted to share them with you all. The first one, I know if you know me, this is going to pretty much always be on my list. And the first one is prayer meditation. I'm a spiritual person, and my relationship with God plays a major role in how I move through life. I truly, truly believe and I understand that all of us have been created for a purpose and with the purpose. Everything that we do in life is linked to our purpose, whether we know what that is or not. And it took me years to really figure that out. And sometimes I still question, am I really going in the right direction? Things are going well, things are going really good. And sometimes we can get to that point in life to where we really question, are we going the right direction? That's why prayer is my number one on the list, because in the life of a believer, prayer is one of the main ways that we actually gather ourselves and we relieve our stress. It's also one of the major ways in which we can get guidance and we get wisdom to do the things that we have to do. Proverbs 3 and 6, it says that in all of thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. If you have a busy day or a busy week ahead, one of the best things you can actually do is to wake up earlier than everybody else. Now, I'm not an early bird. I am not an early bird, but once I started working again and I knew that I wanted to build my business, I began to get up early. And I made that choice to get up early because I wanted to make sure that I had enough time to put y'all first. And I wanted to make sure that I had enough time to work my business outside of the hours that I actually have to work. You may be an early person or you may not be an early person. You want to find the time, whether it's early in the morning, throughout the day, whenever it is, you want to find the time to take some time and just sit before the Father, pray, and just meditate on His Word, meditate on what you have to do, and just asking Him for His wisdom and His guidance for that week. One of the things that I learned this week, which actually prayer and meditation has been a big part of my life anyway. And so it wasn't something that I necessarily had to adjust to. Now, the waking up early part, yeah, that was something I had to adjust to. But just waking up and putting him first before anything else, it helps to make your day go a lot smoother. And you'll begin to recognize that when you take the time to acknowledge the Most High before you dedicate your time to anything else, you will start noticing that your days will go a lot smoother. You can take, maybe 15 minutes when you're just starting out, 15 minutes here or 15 minutes there. You can pray quietly while you're working. You can take the time to just really meditate on a particular scripture. Like, for example, Proverbs 3 and 6. In all your ways, acknowledge him. He'll direct your paths. You meditate on that scripture, and you know that if I acknowledge him and I speak to him before I make this decision, or before I choose to go this route, or before anything, he will direct your path the way that you're supposed to go. That's one of the things that I feel is very important. So you're going to always hear me say prayer and meditation, because it's one of the things that's truly important when it comes to us living life on purpose. The next thing that actually helped me, which is something that I never really did before, I did, but just never really did it in a way that was beneficial, is a brain dump. And basically, a brain dump is a simple way for you to declutter your mind. Just like we have to have spring cleaning and we declutter our homes, removing things that no longer need to be there, your mind needs to be decluttered as well. We have so much going on, so many responsibilities as women. We're known to be multitaskers. I've said that previously. And we have so many hats that we're juggling at the same time. And with those juggling hats, our minds can become like a computer with 100 tabs open at the same time. So sometimes we just need to declutter our minds. We need to just get everything out and let everything go. And a brain dump is a great way to do that. With a brain dump, basically, you just want to sit down with your journal. You want to sit down maybe with a notebook or a planner and just write everything you need to do. Every thought that's been on your mind, everything that you've been thinking about, you just want to get it all out. A few questions to answer in your brain dump would be something like, what tasks for your business and home do you need to get done? Or was there something you didn't get time enough to do? What's something that's been worrying you lately? Do you have any special events or special occasions coming up? Is there something that you keep forgetting to do? Any special meetings? What bills do you have for your business and for your home that are coming up? Anything that you can think of that's been on your mind, just write it all down. Just put it all down on paper, get it all out of your mind so that you'll be more focused and you'll have a clearer mind for the next tip, which is to plan and prioritize. That's right, I said plan and prioritize. Having a plan and knowing what you want to do will help you become more organized enough to not get flustered. I know for me, like I said, I believe it was last week or the week before, is that I'm not naturally an organized person. Now, having a plan and knowing what to do will help you to stay organized enough so you don't get flustered. You may be one who only needs to have a to-do list and you check it off as you complete the task. There's apps that help with that, like Todoist and other apps that work like a checklist. That may be good for you. You may be one who needs to actually see your task on a calendar. So you have a broad view of the days and the weeks that you have ahead. You can see in advance what activities you have to complete. You can either use maybe your planner calendar or office calendar or the calendar app that's in your phone. There's really no right or wrong way to plan. Whatever your method of planning is, just do what works best for you, because once you plan out your tasks, what you're going to want to do then is prioritize them. I know there are some things that we like to think are important when actually they may not be as important as we think. So, prioritizing your tasks by importance gives you really a clear view of what's important and what can actually be done later or maybe not at all. And this is something that I actually would struggle with because I never really did a brain dump. I would just dump everything on my to do list and I would make everything worse because now I have all this stuff on my to do list. So now I'm getting more stressed and more anxious because it just looks like it's so much to do when I never really actually tried to prioritize or plan things the way that they needed to be done. I also planned more than what I could realistically handle, which actually leads me into my next tip, because you don't want to over plan. That's the tip. Don't over plan. You have to be realistic in your planning. You're working a 9 to 5 and you're working a business. So, like I said, your time is very limited. You have to be mindful of how you spend your time. It was stressful for me to get anything done or to plan effectively because I was trying to plan it all and do all the things in a short amount of time. I had the time that I before I go to work in the morning, I go to work, and then the time after I get off work. And after that, I definitely had to get some sleep so I can be ready for the next day. So you have to be mindful and intentional with your time to make sure that you're not over planning things because sometimes it can just be too much when you have a household to attend as well. So when you're planning, break down the larger task into smaller tasks and make sure you're focused on the important ones first. We know obviously a business meeting with a new client is going to be more important than watching your favorite TV show on Hulu or Netflix. And finishing that contracted project is going to be more important than the next story on Facebook. We know that. So you're going to know what's more important to you, your family, and your business. So just prioritize it accordingly. The last tip is that you want to be flexible. You have to be flexible. You need to take God out of the box. Take him out of the box. Many times we can have our plans and we plan things the way we want them to come to fruition. And we want to make sure that the vision that we have for them comes forth the way we want it to. And sometimes things don't go as planned. And so we can get upset, we can get stressed, we can get anxious, and just really maybe get downtrodden or depressed because we don't know what's happening. We don't know why our plans aren't going the way that they're supposed to go. And we don't understand why things aren't falling into place like they should. That's why in Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, it says to trust in the Lord with all thine heart and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him. We said that earlier, and he will direct your paths because sometimes our plans are going to change, and we have to be okay with that. We have to know that life happens and it can become a lot more stressful if you're not flexible to the change. You'll be forcing plans to happen that may actually not be what's supposed to happen, or you'll be forcing plans to happen that could possibly easily be adjusted if you just take a step back, take a break, and reevaluate the priorities that you set in place, reevaluate the things that you have to do. And you just have to trust that it's all going to work out the way that it's supposed to. It says to trust the Lord with all thine heart, meaning that we're not going to lean on our own understanding. We're not going to lean on the way that we think things should come to pass. We're going to trust that He has everything in His hand and that He's working all things out the way that He wants to. If you don't get to check off everything on the list that you have for that day, it's completely okay. Eventually, it's going to get done. You have to be flexible enough to adjust with the changes that take place. You just do. I hope that these tips will help you in managing some of the stress that you may have had. I know that since I've implemented these things into my own life, this past week has been a lot less stressful. I've been a lot more calm, a lot more relaxed. I've been just kind of going with the flow. And if for you, changing everything at once is too much for you, just start with the first tip. Maybe you don't pray, maybe you don't meditate. Start with that. Start learning how to pray, start learning how to meditate. If you start with one tip, maybe next week add an extra tip, and so on and so forth. Each week, just add an additional tip to help you, and eventually you'll start to see the difference. You'll start to see things changing. And if you've been going through stressful times now, or maybe you don't work a 9 to 5 and have a business, or maybe you might want to start a business in the future. If you're planning to start your business while you're working, I'm definitely a firm believer in having multiple streams of income. So if you are thinking about starting that business, go ahead and get started. It's nothing wrong with it. There's so much information that's out to help you get started with your business. And especially now, I mean, we're in a new month and the year is almost over. I'm sure you're probably looking forward to what's next for 2021, just as I am. We don't know what's going to be around the corner because we definitely didn't think 2020 was going to be the way that it is. But we're going to take a licking and keep on ticking, just like the Energizer Bunny. We're thankful for our health. We're thankful for family. We're thankful for just being alive. All we can do is plan like we've been planning for years before 2020. And if you're fortunate enough to be working during these times, it's definitely a blessing. And with those blessings comes great responsibility. Sometimes these are things that we actually pray for, but when we get it, it could sometimes feel overwhelming because it's unfamiliar territory to us. But just stay encouraged, keep the path that you're on, and if you need some guidance, you need some assistance, you need just help, prayer, whatever it might be, just reach out to me and I'll be able to help you. I'll leave my contact information in the description and I would love to pray with you. I'll just reach out to me and I'll be able to help you because if you keep the path, if you stay encouraged, if you stay motivated, eventually you're going to get to your destination. And so, with that being said, until next time, stay pampered. Thanks for joining us this week on the Pampered Thoughts podcast. Be sure to visit us at www.pamperedthoughts.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Stitcher, or RSS, so you'll never miss a show. You can also check us out on Facebook and Instagram at Pampered Thoughts and on Twitter at I Am Pampered. As always, subscribe to the show to catch a new episode every week. And if you found value in the show, please leave a rating on iTunes and tell a friend about us. We want to continue to bring you the episodes you love. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, stay pampered.